Welcome back to the Means Report. Before we talk about all of the bad things that kids are putting into their body from a tobacco and e-cigarette standpoint, let me go back to what we were talking about the first segment when it comes to mom and dad smoking and the impact it can have on the entire household. Dr. Caldwell, what have you seen, whether it's in a clinical setting, whether it's in the hospital, as far as kids getting sick because they're in a smoke environment?
Well, I think that definitely it can impact their the rate of asthma attacks, increases the risk for ear infections. It also can lead to effects of dental decay even. So a lot of these kids that come in with really poor dentition and have to have, you know, extensive dental work, a lot of times their parents have been smoking too.
Do you ever go out into the waiting room and say the reason your child is sick is because you're smoking, and if so, what do they say? Well,
you know, you have to kind of reach out to them a little gingerly because you don't want them to be very defensive about it. But one time I have more success even in the newborn nursery, because a lot of times we'll ask parents if the mother smoked during her pregnancy, and usually women stop. They really do make a hard attempt to stop. But a lot of times there may be a pack of cigarettes that maybe the father has left there, and he goes outside to smoke even when the mother's in the hospital. And so I always ask them about that, how do they feel about that. I always tell them that they should never smoke around the baby, they should not smoke in the car. But I always try to implicate them too, like I really care about their welfare.
That's a good approach.
Yes, that I care about their health, and it's not just for the baby, although I'm very concerned about the baby. And I've had, you know, like fathers just say, okay, I'm going to throw these cigarettes away right now.
Oh, that's awesome. I hope
that's pretty impressive in the newborn nursery. So.
Dr. Tingen, I, you know, half jokingly as we went to break, said that there were several things that kids are doing these days that I didn't want to learn about. And that really was me just sort of joking, saying if I put my head in the sand, maybe it'll go away. Of course it won't. These e-cigs and these vapes and these hookahs are everywhere. Are cigarettes even cool anymore for young kids?
Well, this is the deal with what's happened with the tobacco market. The great news is there is a decline in smoking. In our area, the national rates are 15 to 16% of people smoking. That's 18 years and above. In our area of Richmond County, the rates are about 19%. In public housing, the rates are as high as 40 to 60%. That's pretty dramatic.
It's extremely dramatic.
Yes. And
cigarettes only?
Mostly cigarettes. Now, what's happened with youth, and I'm going to talk a little bit about high schoolers, so I'm talking about 9th, 10th, and 11th, and 12th graders. They have really shifted away from tobacco, but if you look across the nation and specific data for the state of Georgia, 25% of high schoolers are using some type of nicotine product, and that is typically electronic cigarettes.
But they're safe, right?
No, they are not safe. So you can order ever how much nicotine dose you want to put in your electronic cigarette. That electronic cigarette also has a lot of chemicals in it that are very unhealthy to inhale. The other thing is there's now over 7,000 to 10,000 different flavors that come in these very small bottles that are very aromatic and very colorful that young children that are toddlers are very drawn to.
Are those things called Juuls? Are those the Juuls you're talking about?
I don't know what those little things. I call them
little electronic devices.
Those are electronic. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the kids are. I'm sure y'all are laughing at me, young people. But this is serious.
Yeah. But you know, the electronic cigarette comes in every color, every imagination, every formulation. You can get them to match whatever outfit you're wearing that day. For the guys, the girls, everything you can imagine, they're creating. But this is a major deal. So you can order the amount of nicotine in any flavor you can even dream of, and the Poison Control Center's calls related to accessing these refills for electronic nicotine replacement cigarettes, electronic cigarettes, has gone up by over 1,100% in the last 2 years from young children getting into those little bottles.
How do we make?
One teaspoon of nicotine is lethal to a small child. And when I say lethal, I mean deadly.
Please forgive me for interrupting you. How do we make young people stop doing this? Do your smoking cessation classes or resources address vaping and e-cigarettes? If so, how?
Yeah. Well, I think it's important for kids to realize that, you know, that they aren't safe, that they're not a safe alternative to combustible cigarettes, and that they are just as addictive, and probably kids become more addictive sooner when they use electronic cigarettes because the nicotine can be more concentrated.
Does it give them a buzz? What's the appeal, or is it just as kids have been doing forever, it makes them feel cool, it makes them fit in?
It's a cool thing to do. It's a new device. They can get it in every shape, form they want, and it's really, quote, being part of the group.
Sure.
I think it's really, really important to think about it from the standpoint of a recent study that was published by a medical student and I talked about the trends and looked at all the details of this. The students that are currently using electronic cigarettes, and we're talking about young people, I'm talking about 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, when those kids are interviewed, they all say they enjoy it so much, they're probably going to take up smoking traditional cigarettes as well.
They have a plan to do that.
They have a plan to do that.
That's sad.
And it's often what kids intend to do often leads to an actual behavior to do. So there's many theoretical models that have been vetted that show that to be true. So when you think about electronic cigarettes, tobacco, any form of nicotine you can, from even in utero, there are all types of things that happen with babies in utero that live out longer term, even after they get to be older.
Let me ask you this. If we find some of these things that you're talking about, these little containers of the liquid, or a jewel, or of an e-cig,
right?
Do we confront the child? Do we throw it away? What's the approach after you bust them?
I would definitely talk to the child about them and tell them about the health consequences and that it's very addictive, and talk about the long-term consequences of cigarette smoking. You know, not just immediately, and but you know, like over time, you know, the risk of heart disease and cancer and things like that. But yes, I would definitely confront the child and talk to them about it.
You know, all the literature shows something very clearly, that parent and child relationship, communication, and bonding is critical for life.
Well, I agree.
And the earlier that starts, the better things progress along typically. A specific example of this is, by the time a child turns 12 years old, you know, their peers are becoming really important to them. If a child has a strong and healthy relationship with their parent or parents or caregiver, they are intentionally going to choose friends that their parents would agree with, that participate in behaviors their parents agree with. If they do not have that relationship and it is fractured or broken, they intentionally do behaviors and pick friends that participate in behaviors that they know their parents would not support. So I cannot emphasize enough, from birth, the relationship you have with your child, of respecting them, of listening to them, of communicating with them, of having family meetings, letting everybody share how they feel about something. But parents, to me, are incredibly powerful. Do you know, Brad, our day is so busy. People are running here and there. Their kids are involved in all different things. Parents are working more than they've ever worked. Daycares are booming businesses. Long-term care facilities for elderly parents are booming businesses. If a parent would just have one meal a day with their child and not be on their phone or their iPad or whatever and have a talk, the National Institute of Drug Abuse says 70% of all drug use by kids could be prevented.
Just a meal a day. Dr. Tinchin, thank you for what you do. Dr. Caldwell, my thanks to you. Congratulations on your study.
Thank you.
And I hope that it leads to more success stories from parents everywhere. We appreciate you so much. As we go to break, let me show you some resources that are available thanks to our friends at the Georgia Cancer Center. You can learn how to quit smoking by taking classes. They start every 2 weeks. Dial the number on your screen for more information there. It is easy to kick the habit.